Sigma programming. What up? Yo, I think it's interesting what the Jews did in the early BC years. And now I see what it was about. At first I used to think, oh man, that's far-fetched. They had this rule, right? And you could read it in the Old Testament where, if a kid was bad enough, everybody in the neighborhood could stone them to death, like literally throw rocks at them until they're dead. This was one of the things for stoning. This also applied to adultery. This also applied to even bestiality. Yo, they was like, yo, you gotta stone both the person and the beast and the animal. Because even the animal was, and it was like, man, that's wild. You know what I mean? There's no, you can't just rehab them or help them or, because remember now, and that's what I want to segue into too, because with that, at the time I was a kid, like studying this stuff, so I didn't see it any further than what was in that particular book. So it was just like Old Testament rules. So I was like trying to, conform that to the 19th, 20th, 21st century. Like, nah, we don't do that. You know what I mean? We got laws that's, prevent that kind of, we consider that abuse. You know what I mean? You can't do that. Now, when you break this stuff down, not as a law for you to follow, but you look at the symbolism behind this, you can see, I want to say this carefully because, this can be, if this is communicated wrong, it could come across as very offensive, very abusive. It could come across as hate speech, etc. So I want to be very, very careful in the connection that I'm drawing with this. So in Jewish Talmudism, they wanted to try to prevent this archonic situation from springing forth, where you would just have these Cambrians, which is really the result of demonic union, with a person. This is the origin of the incubi and succubi that's coming out of Gamaliel. They like Lilith's cronies and whatnot, like agents of, and then depending on what school of thought, agents of the Spider Queen, but to also be devoured by the Spider Queen for setting up other people, because ultimately that's the price of Loth. So they were like, we got to kill the demons. So their exorcisms, this was an attempt at an exorcism, that stoning. We're like, they got to get these folks out of here. That's how they was believing. And it's like, wow, that's harsh. But you still see it happening to a degree now, when you look at how a lot of kids can come out of very abusive homes, and we don't know whether or not the kids are being rebellious, and you know what I mean. We don't know if their purpose is to be hell raisers. The reality of it is that a lot of drama comes from both sides in a chaotic home. The drama could come from both the parents and the kids. Like, both people can be risking injury of one another constantly. And now comes the stoning, but it comes in different forms. What gets you stoned? Drugs. Let's clarify what a drug is without even really having to say what's what. But stoning, not all stonings lead to your death, but some stonings, like if you out in where's that? If you out there taking crocodile, what they call Russian heroin, you get stoned using that. They say your life expectancy is about 1.5 years from the first shoot up. From the first moment you put crocodile in you, you are certain to die by stoning, if you don't die from what happens right on site, because you're basically putting like lighter fluid, battery acid, cleaning products, some weed to be gone. You know what I mean? You put in weed whacker, you know, all of the kind of stuff that's, you know, perfect for cleaning jet fighter engine planes or something like that, but not for human consumption in any way, shape, or form. But people use this to get stoned, and you used to see these shows in Ricky Lake and kids wilding out, you know, of a different demographic. Now I ain't gonna say too much, but you know, they was huffing. They used to huff. You used to hear about huffing. You know what I mean? I didn't come from the demographic or community where any of that was going on, but you would see it on TV. Like, person done, they was inhaling, what was it? Some kind of air freshener or whatever the case, or it'd be the empty ready whip just to get a buzz. They're stoning, but the way that stuff be breaking their body down is death by stoning. Now, I'm not here to say that these kids are necessarily being rebellious. I don't know them. But what I do see is a pattern, though. You know what I mean? So it's like, wow, well, it looks like one thing means the other. While I'm not promoting or condoning the furtherance of either of these things. But what I am doing is I want to point to the link between those two things, because there are stonings that kill you. You know, people will die from a hit of this, a hit of that. You know, you got that, you know, it's fentanyl around. So with fentanyl, a person could die by stoning. Just like in the Old Testament, the penalty, throwing rocks at you until dead. Dead by stoning and dead by stoning. You know what I mean? So like you get stoned off the fet, but you don't wake up from the nap. You know, you don't nod off. You know, you nod all the way out, you know, out of life. But these two things are happening, and look, check it out. It don't have to just mean kids. Like I said, the laws of stoning are the laws of stoning. It applied to all kinds of stuff. And without going into detail, you know that there's some very, what we would consider generally depraved forms of entertainment going out. And all of these things bear a conviction by stoning. Most of them, just about all of them, you know, because that was really their response to depravity, because what they were trying to prevent was this demonic insurgence is what they was trying to, they didn't want to have hell on earth, so to speak. They didn't want to have hell on earth, so they felt like physical measures had to be taken. And this is where you get those holy slaughters and all of that stuff in the book of Joshua, when you had Yahweh saying, yo, kill everybody. I don't care. Men, women, animal, children. If you see, even if a roach tries to leave that town, you better stomp it. Because they were trying to use a very physical 3D means to eliminate a 7D, 8D, and 9D infestation. Killing the people don't fix the problem. Is a Hydra head. So like, if you take one out, the only thing that's going to happen is another one's going to grow in its place. The only thing you get is just a good fight for that day. And a lot of people are satisfied with just that. This is what a lot of people do in the very modernized expressions of religion. They know that stuff don't work. They know they don't believe. They know they don't have faith. They know they're not going there for that. But they don't know anything else. So it's part of the routine. You know, God ain't there. He more, you know, God is, I'm sure, probably interested in some, not to say that he can't be, you know, God in essence is all things everywhere, you know, like the allness, but I don't think God would be entertained or necessarily interested in a lot of religious expressions on the mainstream scene, because we really can't even stomach the pretense on a big level. It's like, here we go again. But then a lot of the people are still for it, and they might be innocent. They may not have had certain veils lifted off of them. And it's almost like, man, you don't want to tell people that Santa Claus is fake when they still 4 years old and 5 years. Yeah, you know what I mean? You do with that as you will. You know what I mean? You do with that as you will. But sometimes, you know, it can be hard. They might not be ready to wake up. or to hear that there's even a perspective like this out there. So again, this is Super T Sigma of Sigma Programming. I'm going to stop it right there because I know I was just getting ready to segue into a whole bunch of other stuff with that because, that's a deep topic, though. Death by stoning. And, listen, it ain't just the street stuff either. I mean, what if somebody's being held in some kind of psychiatric institution against their will and just being fried and they got their brain melted? Gravy for the brain. That's what Mel Gibson was saying in Conspiracy Theory. The movie from the 90s with Julia Roberts and Patrick Stewart. Said it's gravy for the brain. Turn your brain into oatmeal out here. And I was going to do that for a living. I was going to be one of the main producers of brain oatmealization. I was going to be the main brain melter out here. Making my little, 300,000 a year. And I was going to be good. But it's hard when you got like a conscience and you're like, nah, I can't do this to people. We should be able to talk to them. If you're gonna give them something, give them a cigarette or something. Give them, you know what I mean? Oh man, that stuff is. You don't really want to give them something that got a whole bunch of other thousands of, side effects. Give them a beer, a brew, give them a drink, something, but you don't want to give them death by stoning. That stuff, like a lot of people be in there dead. Even though they breathe and their body still functions, they really be dead because their soul be gone. It's like the combination of the drugs is all psychotropic. So it can cause chemical castration. Of course, the libido's going anyway with those levels of insanity, or being driven out of your mind that far. You ain't gonna be thinking about getting it on. You ain't gonna be thinking about nothing. You're gonna be thinking about how you can stop thinking. Because you're going to be going through whatever you're going through, and that sucks. So I guess in a way, this is maybe some form of advocacy for, or continuing to say that mental health is everything. You know what I mean? You take the head, the body going to follow. Mental health is everything. And when we say mental health, we don't mean, go get a shrink. We're not trying to just march everybody into the therapist's office. Because for however much you might spend there, how do we know that this isn't something that you may not be able to solve on your own, just asking yourself different kinds of questions? And by studying different things out in the world, taking on different archetypes that will allow you to gain your personal power and see it through your own unique expression. Even if you have to use a template of some other figure, you still got that advantage. You still hold that trump card of just deciding, making the choice not to have death by stoning, not to lose yourself in the sensation of life to the point where you forfeit your own. Of course, it's easier said than done, because another manifestation of this is eating sweets. What if I got into 10 arguments with people and I was so stressed out? You know what I mean? Once I finally get away from them folks, you think I don't want a gallon of ice cream? I want a gallon of ice cream just like somebody that's 8 times my weight. I want the same gallon of ice cream. I want the same carrot cake. I want the same cheesecake. I want the same oatmeal cookies, or you know what I mean? I want the, you know what I mean? But again, I want just as many cups of coffee. Whether we realize it or not, though, that can turn into death by stoning. Because what if there's no balance there and that turns into diabetes? And then you gotta inject insulin, because every time you were stressed out, you ran to sweets. Yeah, it's real talk. Death by stoning, big topic, And I will stop here. You know what I mean? This is like probably about 15 minutes. I'm kind of glad I went a little bit longer, because I haven't been doing as many lessons lately. Primarily due to just making sure the kitchen never closes. You know what I mean? The kitchen closes at 6:66 p.m. So I'm still in the kitchen. This is coming out of the kitchen. You know what I mean? The wrap is coming off of the stovetop. That's why you got the burners and all of that. But this right here, these lessons, that's coming out of the oven. We baking these, you know what I mean? So you just enjoy that. Again, it's Super T Sigma, Sigma Programming, also known as Torian. Real name sounds like an alias itself. I thank God for my name. Thank my mother for naming me. And I thank the group Enchantment from which my name was chosen. I think my mother was maybe a preteen or something like that when she chose my name. You know what I mean? And then she didn't have me until many, many years later. So my name outlives me, but it was attached to this group called Enchantment. So in this world where we're dying by stoning, I have a moral and a spiritual responsibility to enchant you towards higher truth. I'm not going to say you need to know the truth. No, I'm just going to present truths in the most enchanting way that I can. So again, it's Super T Sigma of Sigma Programming. I thank you for your time and attention. You know, reaching is teaching. Namaste. Really know yourself for yourself. And hey, if it takes 1 million videos to reach 1 million views, then hey, so be it. But in the meantime, continue to vibrate high, people. Peace.